In this lesson, we're going to talk about what legal issues you should be aware of if you manufacture in Vietnam. We're going to talk about NDAs. We're going to talk about litigation. We're going to talk about setting up a company, and we're going to talk about getting a visa to come here. So for NDAs, you can ask a factory to sign an NDA, and they will. You can ask someone like me, a consultant, to sign an NDA, and I will. But frankly, it's a waste of time because factories and consultants, we're not in the business of retail. We're not in the business of branding, marketing, sales, distribution, customer service. We're not in the business of knocking people off. The people you need to be worried about are opportunistic entrepreneurs, the ones that just see your product on Amazon or your Shopify website and look at the numbers and see that you're selling well. They buy one, they take it to China or Vietnam, and they have the Chinese or the Vietnamese factory copy it with some slight modification, including might just be their brand name. It happens, it's a risk, but having an NDA with a consultant like me or a factory is not going to stop that opportunistic entrepreneur. On a side note, on this topic of being knocked off, I recommend you watch Sarah Blakely's masterclass.com, where she talked about her journey of creating Spanx and how she also spent a lot of time thinking about whether or not to get her Spanx designs patented and trademarked. And in the end, she, after talking to her lawyers, she decided not to go through all the legal proceedings of protecting her intellectual property. And she just brought her product to market, focused on sales, focused on branding, let the world know that she was the first and that she's the leader. She knew she was going to get knocked off. She got knocked off, but her product was always the leader. And she also talked about how she and her team, they just focused on bringing new products to market, improving their original Spanx designs. And they just always stayed ahead of those copycatters. And I personally think that's the most practical advice that we should take when considering this idea of being knocked off and having our intellectual property stolen. It's going to happen. And that's just how life is. Copying is how we learn and innovate. And I guarantee as you get more into this and you start doing your second and third production run, and you're over here in Vietnam or in China visiting different factories, innovating or like iterating your product, you will be in a factory, you'll see somebody else's production, and you'll be like, wow, that's really cool. That's a great idea. I love what they did to that accessory, or that's an amazing fabric. I wonder how that fabric would do with my product. And you also will copy other people's ideas because it's just natural. But the point is, it's not the factory owner and it's not the consultant, because it'd be a waste of our time to think about copying other people's ideas because we don't have our own product and we're too busy being a consultant or being a factory. So just keep that in mind and go easy on the consultant and the factory. Don't make assumptions that the factory or the consultant is the bad guy. It's the opportunistic entrepreneur that's just learning. And if you do get copied, consider yourself lucky. It means that you've developed something that's selling well, is in demand, and is just a great innovation. So that's my take on NDAs. As far as litigation, of course, it's an option if you want to litigate against or take a Vietnamese factory to court because you feel you've been done wrong or they violated the production contract. You can hire a local law firm or you can hire an international law firm. International law firms are more expensive, but they speak English well and they speak your language and understand your culture better. Where if you hire a local Vietnamese law firm, there might be some issues with language and or culture, but they're cheaper. The bottom line is if you try to take legal action in Vietnam, the cards are stacked against you, and I don't recommend it. What I recommend is that you just stay very closely involved in the whole process, and if you see any red flags or any warning signs, back out and cut your losses and just move on to another factory. Of course, if you're a large corporation like Lego or Coca-Cola or Heineken that's manufacturing here in Vietnam and you decide to take legal action and you can afford to pay the best of the best international lawyers, then they will. So it is an option. It's just incredibly expensive, and the chances of you winning your case and winning enough compensation from the case to pay the legal bills is very low. So the other thing is how to avoid litigation. Just to reiterate the importance of quality control is get to know the owner. If you see any warning signs early, back out. Do proper inline and final QC. Take a hands-on approach and manage the whole quality control process from beginning to end, and you should never have to litigate. Do you need to set up a company in Vietnam? No, you don't. If you do, it's going to cost you around $3,000 plus or minus $1,000. But what they don't tell you when you start thinking about setting up a company is that you also have to hire an accountant or an accounting firm, because from the day that your company is legal, you have to start recording your income and your expenses. You have to have an incredible paper trail of all your incomes and expenses, and you have to do your quarterly and annual reports. And if you hire people, you have to pay social insurances, which is like 27% on top of their salary total. If you set up a company, you've got just the expense of setting up the company, but then you have the ongoing expense of doing your accounting. So it's better to just trade. Do like we talked about in the export contract, party A, party B. Your entity is over in your country. It's either individual or a company. And then you've got the entity in Vietnam, and it's just an international trade contract. And you don't need any kind of legal representation in Vietnam. But if you do decide to set up a company in Vietnam, you've got two basic options. One is to be 100% foreign owned, or the other one is to be a partnership with a Vietnamese citizen. If you're 100% Vietnamese owned, all you can do is trade, but you can provide services in Vietnam, and you can have income and expenses in Vietnam. And one of the benefits of being a 100% foreign owned company in Vietnam is that you can get a visa, and therefore you don't have to be here on a tourist visa. You can get like a temporary resident card. One of the restrictions being 100% foreign owned is that you cannot buy material and then turn it into a final product and then sell that final product out of the country. All you can do is trade. But if you're in a company that's a partnership with the Vietnamese, or it's 100% Vietnamese owned and you're the legal rep, then you can buy raw materials, manufacture it into something, and then ship it out as a final product. And it's cheaper to set up a Vietnamese partnership company than to set up a 100% foreign owned. And it's a lot faster to set up a partnership, a company where it's a partnership with the Vietnamese, as opposed to setting up a 100% foreign owned company. If you set up a 100% foreign owned company, it will take you about a month. If you set up a partnership company, it only takes like 2 weeks. Do you need a visa to come to Vietnam? Yes, you do. Do you need a business visa to come to Vietnam to meet factories? No, you don't. You come here on a tourist e-visa. There are some European countries that are exempt, and there are the ASEAN countries are exempt from visas. But what you want to do is go to the evisa.gov.vn website and just start filling out the forms. And if you're exempt, you'll know, because they'll tell you. It's like, oh, you're from that country, you don't need a visa. But if the website doesn't stop you, it means you need a visa. But be careful of imposter websites. Only use the evisa.gov.vn website, and don't pay anybody to help you set up your visa. If you need a business visa for some reason, then yes, use a visa agent service or a law firm. They can help you get the business visas. When you do come here on an e-visa, it is only valid for a certain period of time. So be aware of that and don't overstay your time. But I think you can get multiple tourist visas within a given year. So in summary, what legal issues do you have to be aware of? NDAs, I don't recommend them. Litigation, I don't recommend planning to litigate. Focus your energy on doing quality control correctly and plan to spend money on QC. You can set up a company if you want. It's not necessary. I don't recommend it unless you plan on hiring staff and doing a lot of work to do big business in Vietnam. And yes, most likely you need a visa just get an e-visa, tourist visa through the government website. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about what finance options do you have. See you in the next lesson.